Hey there, crew. It's Mark, back from Go Wild, and this was the first thing that caught my eye when I came back to some packages. This is the Onion Skin Journal, and I'm so excited to show you what's inside of here today because the paper is extra special. So the Onion Skin Journal, why this is so fantastic, really is because, well, first of all, packaging. Hello, you know me and packaging. I love it. Really cool design, but the paper is what really makes this journal stand out from anything else because this is, well, onion skin paper. It's also known as airmail. The difference between this paper and some other paper is this is made out of 100% wood pulp. Not all paper is created equally. A lot of times people will extract like the cellulose fibers from like the trees, right? Cotton, rice, wheat straw, and then make paper out of this. So this paper is very special. It is also incredibly thin. Like, I can't even. So we're going to go ahead and take a full look at this today, talk a little bit more about everything you get as a part of this. And then of course we have to do a pen test because, well, the paper's so thin, like, am I going to be able to use a fountain pen inside of here? I don't know. So once we open up this notebook, you're going to go ahead and see a handful of things inside of here. So the first thing is that there is kind of a stencil inside of here. Because the paper is so incredibly thin, you actually need or can put that underneath of here and like it's, I mean, you can see right through that. Like that is insane. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this paper. Also inside of here we get a handful of things. There is kind of this right to heal card, looks like something that maybe the company is doing. We also get our little pamphlet, bookmark, whatever we want to call this, is all about the Onion Skin Journal. So timeless quality, made in America. It's Smyth-Sewn, has a linen cover, hand-folded pages, onion skin paper, and talks a little bit more about the importance and how special the paper is inside of here because you're not usually finding things like this. Of course, you can check them out online, the Onion Skin Journal and the onionskinjournal.com if you want to check out any of the other designs that they have. And a nice little thank you note in here from them as well. So this notebook obviously does not have any type of page numbers on here, but it does have 320 blank pages. So that is quite a lot of pages that you're getting inside of here because, well, the paper is so incredibly thin. Also, something that it mentions is that this is fabricated by a third generation bookmaker. And it's fountain pen friendly, so at least it says it on the website. So to me, this is just a very, very special notebook that I cannot wait to start writing inside of. As someone who doesn't like ghosting in their notebook, this I feel like is going to be a very interesting pen test today. So I have all my usual suspects over here. We've got pens and pencils, all different types of brands, a few fountain pens inside of here. We have our highlighters. We have a bunch of brush pens. I'm also going to be stamping inside of here, watercoloring inside of here. And I also want to use some distressed oxide in here too, some of this pigment ink to see kind of all the things. And I also have to, because everyone has to try it out. I don't expect a Sharpie to work in here, especially with this paper, but I think it's worth a try, right? Like, let's throw everything at it. Now, if this paper is as good as it says it is, this could be a very beautiful swatch book for inks. I don't know what inks are going to look like in here, but we're going to go ahead and use this very last page over here. And I'm just going to go ahead and just slip this template right underneath of here. It is glued inside the margin here, so this isn't going to go all the way in, but just to kind of show you like what that looks like when it's not glued like there on a single page. It goes all the way into the margins. You have this full space to write. Isn't this crazy? Like looking at this, it almost doesn't even look like there's a piece of paper here. Like it's just ever so like tinted like a very light brown color from like this stark white here. But that's wild to me. Absolutely wild to me. All right, so let's go ahead and get this back here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start with pens first. So I'm just gonna kind of write out the name real quick, speed this up so we can just see how everything looks on here. I'm so very interested in seeing how the fountain pens work. I'm just doing some very quick and dirty experimentation here to see about how fast this ink is drying. As we can see, obviously, right when you're writing with that fountain pen, it's instantly still wet. even the Retro 51 and then Baron Fig Squire. So the reason that I always use these two in any pen test I do is that while they are a gel pen, they tend to take a little bit longer because they're putting down a lot of ink. I wrote that, you know, maybe a minute or two before I got down to the TWSBI that we did, and they were still wet. So something that you'll have to pay attention to, especially with this type of paper. And it's true for any type of paper. I find that where like ink sits on it really well, it looks beautiful, it writes beautiful, everything's great. You do have to worry about that. So you're going to have to basically get a blotter, make sure everything is good to go for yourself, or make sure your pen's out and like really letting it dry. Now, if we're flipping that over, obviously, right, we're going to be able to see through the paper. The Baron Fig, the Retro 51, again, they're putting down more ink on this. And so it's actually kind of coming through just a little tiny bit. I'm not sure where this dot came from. I don't know if it came from the TWSBI or if it came from the Platinum Preppy that's on here, but I'm pretty sure it's probably the TWSBI ink bleeding through a little bit here. I had to write over because I always forget how to spell TWSBI. So some of that came through. So you'd have to be careful with the fountain pen in here if you're going to do that. So very interested to see how fountain pen ink does by itself. I'll probably have to find a different template for this because I don't want to get anything else on here. Let's go ahead and try the markers next. So that will include fine liners, brush pens, highlighters, and anything else I can find. So we have everything from Dueler markers, Tombos, we've got the Archer and Olive Collagraphs, Le Pen, bunch of zebra stuff, different brush pens, and then down here at the bottom, I went ahead and pressed on my Midori calendar stamp as well as another one, the VersaFine ink. Now, I don't have to touch it because I don't want to touch it because I can still see that all of that ink is very wet on here still. So I might have to just pay a little bit of attention on how long that takes to dry because I'm a little bit nervous about it, to be honest with you. That seems very wet. So have to be careful if you're going to use something like that. And flipping this guy over here, the only thing that I think actually bled through was actually this stamp right here. So that's VersaFine ink, which is usually a very safe ink to use inside of other journals. But that just came through here a little bit. Everything else did very well. Even the Sharpie, I wrote with it kind of quick. I wasn't going to let it hover because I knew it was going to go through like anything else would, any type of paper. But it actually held on pretty good for even as thin as this paper is, which is pretty incredible. And everything else looks good too. So what we're going to have to try now is going to be kind of the other mixed media. I want to try watercolor. I want to try some Distress Oxide and definitely ink, because my thought was that I could use this for an ink swatch book. But if the ink is going to take 10 minutes to dry for each page, then I may have to reconsider. So let's go ahead and try some mixed media stuff over here real quick. We're going to try inks, we're going to try watercolor, and we're also going to just try some fountain pen ink to see exactly how well it works. So a lot of mixed media over here on this side. This is Distressed Oxide, so that's just a pigment ink that you brush onto your page. Not a problem at all. All of this watercolor did okay here, but when I put down like more water on top of here, that is still sitting on top of there a little bit and is still a little bit wet. So that needs extra time. Then, oh my gosh, I love this ink so much. It's so awesome. Jupiter Vortex Twinkle from Birmingham Pen. I can tell that this is still wet because I can still see the ink on here. It is drying though, which should be okay. That was put on with the Kakamori nib, so that's going to put down more ink. Then, you hold it up a little bit more and get a finer line. That's still wet. I can still see that it's wet on here. Feel that it's wet on here. Sometimes I just like to make sure because it is so shiny. You're like, is it wet or is it shiny? Is it just that much shimmer and sheen inside of here? I did a real quick Bayou Berry Mist. This is a new one coming out from Ferris Wheel Press. It has no shimmer, no sheen, nothing like that. And it's dried down here, still a little bit wet up here on that top. NGC 1850, just kind of wrote that out with another kind of finer nib from Kakamori, and that is actually dry. So anything thicker is just going to take a little bit more time on here. Now, as I'm writing, I've actually been very nervous over here on this side because I can still see this ink looks kind of shiny. And you know me that I enjoy stamps inside of my bullet journal, but this ink is still very much wet, and as is this one here. Over on this side where we have the ink kind of puddling down over here. Now that did come through my page here. it makes me a little iffy if I might want to use this for my swatch book, but I think what I would do would be two things. First, I would be using a heat gun to help dry that up even quicker. Now, I don't know how well that would do inside of this type of paper, but I would be very careful. But that wouldn't make the ink sit on here the way that it is right now. I probably should have actually left this here just in case it doesn't come through. Actually, you know what? Let me just do this. It's gonna make me feel a lot better. I don't like doing it. So here are my thoughts on this notebook. I think it's beautiful. I think the paper is very cool and very special. However, you do have to be careful with what you're using inside of here. I think regular pens, even a lot of these markers and brush pens and all of this work just fine. Distress oxide. I think that with fountain pens, you'd be absolutely fine. You would just want to definitely have extra fine, kind of medium nibs. I don't know if I would go anything bigger. And if you do, just make sure that you're giving yourself enough dry time. The stamps, I'm sad about, to be honest with you. I love stamps inside of my journal, but that has been over here for over 10 minutes and still not dried. Looks cool, don't get me wrong, but even something like VersaFine ink, which I usually never have an issue with, it's still laying here. So if I were to shut this notebook right now, well, you know what? I can't actually do that because both of these here are my sample pages, right? And I were to take this along with me and kind of do anything else that I'm doing during the day, and then if I come back and I do that, you'll see that my stamp has then transferred over to this other page here. So it's just something that you have to be aware of. It's not a dig at this notebook or the quality or anything else. I think it's beautifully made. It's just the paper is just very different than what we're used to inside of most of our typical notebooks. So whether you have this notebook for yourself at home or you're thinking about it, those are things that you have to be thoughtful of and thinking, how am I going to use this notebook? But I would say if you're using your average gel pen, no big deal. Writing in here as a journal, it's going to work out beautifully for you. I definitely want to try more things inside of here and experiment. So if I do anything else with this notebook, I might go ahead and just try maybe a page or two for the swatch books because I do like the way this page feels. It feels kind of old world. And I'm like, ooh, that might look really beautiful on there with some ink swatches. I'll just have to be careful about how long I let that sit on here. I'll definitely let you know. If you're interested in this and checking out more about the Onion Skin Journal, like I said, make sure to go to theonionskinjournal.com and definitely check them out online. I love their photography. I love the old look. This is just one of the canvas designs of many. There are going to be a handful on there that are going to be sold out, but for the most part, you should be able to get many of these. I didn't mention price, but the price on this notebook is $54, at least the one that I got here, which is the Botanical Dream. So it is something to be aware of as you're thinking about pricing notebooks and what you're looking for. I'd love to hear from you down in the comment section below if you've ever tried out the Onion Skin Journal or what you think about this. Would this be a journal for you? And if so, what would you do inside of it? I'll talk to you next time, friends. See ya.